Well, it's Friday, a little bit after 10. Had to do some dog walking a little bit later in the morning than I expected, but all was successful. And this is maybe something will happen day, because on Wednesday, I think I managed to spend 3 hours of streaming, and all I managed to do, and I'm not even sure if it was successful, we'll be finding out in a little bit, was sand down some mold flaws, circles that keep showing up in these injection molded parts. Anyway, yeah, I was not to say that, but I did. Yes, I managed to spend 3 hours, probably in futilely. We'll see. I might have to just keep at it, trying to sand down some filler that turned out to be, it cured way harder than I thought it would, which is good. I mean, it means that it can be sanded, because some of the other fillers I have, one can be sanded, but it doesn't sand to a nice glossy finish to match the rest of the plastic. And the other can't be sanded at all because it doesn't harden. But this one does, but I don't know. We'll find out in a little while. What are these? These are flames. These are going to be a flame wall. Those of you who play D&D are probably familiar with that. Flame walls are not good. And yellow primer that we purchased specifically for flames, because flames show up in some of our dungeon tiles. And I've got some examples of that somewhere that I might show you. And what I'll do, if I don't get anything else going, is I'll get some orange and red paint, at least 2 other colors, orange and red, maybe 4, maybe 3 other colors, like orange, reddish orange and red, and try to make these look like flames. And what I can see that I didn't see before is that these were printed on the PLA printers, and there's just little filaments that were practically invisible until they were painted yellow, and now they're very visible. So here's something that will happen. This is a thing that will actually happen today, is that I'm going to take this little knife here, and I'm going to clean those off, because they come off really easily, but they do mar the appearance of flames. Don't have little stringy bits like that. So there. Then they disappear somewhere onto the surface here that I probably will then need to clean off. So I might end up working on these flames today if the Porco Rosso model just doesn't go very well. If it needs more sand, I primed them. Okay. I did. I got the priming done, but if as a result of that, the sanding looks like it's inadequate, that is to say that the circles that I filled in still either look like circles or they look like lumps, then I might just try to paint flames instead, just so that there's something going on the stream. That's why the title of this particular episode is maybe something will happen day. A little bit of a, if anybody knew the old Mickey Mouse show, they had an anything can happen day. and usually something happened. So that's something I think counts as an anything. In this case, though, it's qualified. It's maybe something will happen today. Maybe what we'll see is just me trying to sand down tiny little spots on tiny little pieces with fingers that are not quite as nimble as they used to be. It's another Yusta. That will be unveiled soon. Yeah, I turn this. I'm really good at this. You can tell. Highly professional stream by, I could be at least tilting it this way. If I at least tilted it that way, looking up at my monitor, then you could see what I was doing, but I didn't do that. I tilted it this way, so all you could see was the back of the cardboard. This is why for this particular stream, I was given all sorts of little just surplus bits from the real studio where we play our Dungeons and Dragons show. That's good equipment there. The microphones are. Our DM has one of these soundboards with all these little toggles on it, where she can adjust the pickup on the mic so that, it increases the gain so it sounds louder or softer, or enhances the bass or the treble or the different frequencies, that sort of thing. I've got this microphone here that I guess it works because when I look up at the monitor there's a little bar that shoots back and forth. Yeah. So when I'm quiet, it goes all the way down to nothing, and then it jumps up. There is one sophisticated thing, though, and that's a sound filter. Alexis put on a sound filter so that miscellaneous noises like the dogs barking upstairs or the sound of whatever I managed to drop hitting the floor, which you wouldn't hear anyway because I've got a rubber pad on the floor that's designed to, if you're standing up at a workbench, to keep you from getting too tired. Nice black color, which is great when there's a part that's colored black. Oh, look at that. I just looked up and my chat screen isn't where it's supposed to be. I'm going to see if I can find it. There it is. There. Okay, well, everything else seems to be working. There, I did something. I got tiny little filaments cleaned off of the tops of these flames that I might get around to painting to make it look like orange and red and stuff on the tips of the flames. Just never know. So this is the Savoia S21. This is Porco Rosso's plane. It is a model that is based. It's a model of the plane that Porco Rosso flew in the Miyazaki animated film, Porco Rosso. And it's a really nice model. I finished the inside of this page one of the instructions. This took forever because I worked very slowly. And then sometimes I have to do things over, or I have to test something, or I have to wait for something to wait. But these parts came out really well. I'm really happy with how they look. They're definitely an A level, an A minus at least level model. I'm working on the engine, the enclosure for the engine. This thing, okay, all these parts here that came together to make that. That's done, and it's in the done box. And then this enclosure these three pieces come together and the engine goes in. And because the way I want to paint it is not the way they say to paint it, because that would be a hard way to do it. And I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it a different way. I test fit these three parts and found that I can, in fact, put the engine into the enclosure after these three parts are cemented together, which means that I can cement them, sand out the seams, paint it inside and out before installing the engine, instead of having to worry about putting these pieces all together and then masking this somehow, I don't know, before spray painting the outside of it. So I'm going to, I'm going to show you what's going on here. Even after they are primed, so just a very light white primer, the circles still show because it's not opaque, right? And you can see the difference in color. And what I'm concerned about is whether you will see them after it's painted. I can't feel that one, so I think that's okay. And this one, I think, maybe is raised above the surface, such a tiny bit, but these two I think are okay. I'm going to set these here, and I'm not going to paint the inside. The inside is painted duraluminum because this is what it's made out of. It's the engine cowling is made out of metal. The rest of the plate is made out of wood, but this has to be metal because of the heat of the engine. And then there were these two on the bottom. This is the one I'm concerned about. This one I'll probably... I think these came out okay. I can't feel problems with them. These are radiators, and the issue here were the back. I think this will be okay. You can't really do much about it at this point. Oh, that's not good. There's a bit of a gap there that I didn't notice before. I didn't see it until it's been primed. Sometimes that happens. See, this one has a little bit of a gap there too. And it's just on the edge. Fill that in. This part didn't need anything sanded, so this is the only part that I can actually do something with today. This is the one I'm concerned about, because this, I want this to be a removable part. I want to be able to put this on and take it off. And this is probably going to be the first one I'm going to paint. All right, so there's some things I was planning to do and a couple of things I wasn't planning to do that I now have to do. Okay. Unplanned. One is I am going to assemble these three parts to make the cowling. I'm going to take these pieces of tape off of here. Oh, that was so stupid. It's so dumb, I'm not even going to talk about it. These two parts aren't identical. I messed up. Yep, messed up, and now it's messed, and that's the way it is. I'll have to worry about it when it's time to assemble. I'm going to paint the inside of this to see if it looks okay. All right, that's going to be painted aluminium, or aluminum. And I have to fill in these gaps because that really shows there. This one isn't as bad. as this one. And this is very bad. I thought I had taken care of those, but obviously not. I was worried so much about the veins, these bits on the radiators, where you can see where they come together, but I can pretend that those are designed to be that way. Maybe I might mess around with it a little bit. This came out really pretty well. Might mess around with those a little bit, but I need to fill those in. I need to paint this to see if it if the filling and sanding worked. It looks and feels okay, but I won't be able to tell until it's metallic. And I might as well paint the inside of this as well. The question about, something like this goes on and it's put on and removable. Do these edges, do they get painted the body outside color? Or do they stay the aluminum color? And I'm thinking, if this were a real piece, hi, Ole Brager. Yeah, I finally got back after being away for like 3 weeks, taking care of a brother who had foot surgery in northern Wisconsin. We had minus 29-degree weather one night. That's in the Fahrenheit side, and only minus 15 another night. It was really chilly, but it's good to be back. And you missed Wednesday. On Wednesday, I managed to do nothing except sand down these places where I had done some filling. It was a non-productive day. So what I'm thinking is that if this is a removable piece and it was made out of metal and painted, only the outside would have been painted. Yeah, it was really cold. And that these edges now, which are there because it's a plastic model, probably would have remained the metallic color. And so I'm going to paint it that way. And when I do the masking, I'm going to paint these the metallic color and then put the mask on that and spray paint only the surface. I think that should work. All right, so here's the plan for today. Oh my. Is that like an overtime because you needed to get something out the door kind of work, or was it working 12 hours? Or was it just part of, what is it, your 36-hour work week, like 3 12-hour days? Oh, okay. So when that happens, you have to be there until it's done. When I turned on my computer yesterday, after being gone, not yesterday, Wednesday, after being gone for a couple of weeks, and I got a message that every piece of software that's running on this, the Windows and the Stream Deck and I don't know, whatever else runs the microphones here, everything has an update. And I told it, wait until later, because just, I don't get down here soon enough. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. You can't shut things down until people are done working for the day, and then you can shut things down. So you had to stay late. I'm assuming it was a success. It went well. It's these sticky tack holders to hold these bits in place for painting. I guess it doesn't much matter when I cement these parts together, because they're going to have to sit until I can You know, they're not going to set up and cure unless I use the cyanoacrylate, which I don't do because I can't. It's too fast for me. I can't keep up with its curing. So I guess I could do those almost any time. Maybe I'll do this painting early on. And then I have to do some filling in here. Because these parts when they were just raw plastic, I could see, I thought I'd sanded those out, but it didn't happen. Trying to think what I want to use. I really want to use. These are going to be painted glossy, and they're going to show. They're right on the outside of the engine, and they show. One of the first things you're going to see. Oh, some of them couldn't. Okay. Well, you were lucky, I guess. I guess it's lucky to only have to work 12 hours. I'm guessing that that on Thursday, all of whatever you were working on was working just fine. That you had a successful update. I should say congratulations on the successful update. It's a tiny little gap there. I'm tempted to just use the spackle because it sands so easily, but it will still show. It'll show as something that isn't smooth. So I'm going to try to use this other filler that I used here that sands down nicely. Okay, well, these are on their stands. Put this on because there's too much dirt and stuff on there. There isn't really. It's cleaned. It just looks dirty. So these come together like this. And you can see that there is a very visible seam there. And just like the radiators, that seam is just going to show, and that's not how this was put together. Okay, those aren't. I don't think that's a natural part of the assembly of this. So that's why I want to get this together and fill in the seam and sand it down before I paint it. And when this goes on the bottom. I had fit these pieces together once before using just rubber cement just to see how they fit. And that was a good idea. There we go. They go like this. And then you can see on the inside that there's a kind of a major seam there as well. And I don't know. Actually, I think those would have been separate panels, so I don't have to worry about that too much. It's just the nose that I need to worry about. Yeah. I'm going to use contact cement on this because it grips. Okay. Well, congratulations on getting all of that done. Sometimes when you work a really long day, sometimes you can lose focus, and that would have been difficult. Okay, I think I'm going to do that this way. I'm going to put one side on and then the other. I know I'm using the wrong adhesives for these. I'm not saying use that those are the things I recommend other people using, but I have to use what I can work with. And the model cement, which is also kind of a contact cement, it's not a welding cement quite like it used to be, doesn't grip quickly enough to hold that in place while I get the other parts. And then the contact cement grips, but it also gives me a little bit of time to get the other part on. The other nice thing about it is I can put it on and I can get it on the surfaces, but I don't have to act quickly. No, I can't do that. I cannot use super glue and activator. Everybody else should do that, but it requires me to get them in the right place. And I probably at least 70% of the time, I don't get the parts aligned right when I touch them together. You know, I've used the super glues before, and I've they're recommended, but I just have had nothing but fail. Like, how can I describe it? It just is a disaster for me. Um, I'm not sure why. I think Brogger. I wish a couple of seconds was enough time. I might try it sometime. Um, because I've received the advice to do that so many times now, I might try it if I build a model that maybe I'm only trying to do a B on. Like if I ever do another Fink model, if I ever try to do another Ed Big Daddy Roth Fink, what are these parts? I'm trying to get these and they just don't. Okay, there. See what I mean? I'm just, even without it, I'm messing around. It takes so long to get them lined up. Okay. So I'm not recommending the adhesive that I use because I use it because I this is it. I'm old. My fingers don't work. I can't get things lined up. It takes a while and I need a lot of time, like minutes instead of seconds. But if I ever do another Ed Big Daddy Ross Fink model, and I'd really like to, I really like those models, even though nobody else does. And I think I mean that. I don't know anybody who likes them other than me. My mom hated them when I built them when I was a kid. When I built one once before, actually the first one I built on this stream, other than doing dungeon tiles, was an Ed Big Daddy Roth Fink, the Fink Eliminator. And yeah, the other members of Dyson Dungeons says, don't do that again. We don't like it. Nobody else does either. And so there. Okay. This is going to be, nothing's going to work right day today. Come on, just stay there. That's good. Behave. Right. The Ed Big Daddy Ross Rat Fink series. Okay. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I think you can look it up on the internet. It'll probably tell you what I'm talking about. Unless you ask AI. If you ask AI, you have no idea what you're going to get. But if you want to, you can look it up and you'll see what I mean. You'll probably see immediately why my mom hated them. Um, although when I built them, I was in high school and I developed some skills, not very much, but some. And I got paint. I had a little bit of money, so I was able to buy more than just silver and red paint. And so, yeah, I was able to paint the models, and I didn't know what I was doing. Hadn't read any books about modeling or anything, and there probably were some back then, way back, way back. This was like in the mid. It was just the second half of the 1960s, so that tells you something. But I did for me, without knowing what I was doing. I didn't like the seams that showed on the models, and so I didn't know anything about filling in the cracks. So I just let paint build up on them. I thought that was pretty clever, really. Is that fill in the cracks? I just let the paint. I just used excess paint until they were filled in. I even got really good at doing custom color. I would mix the colors of the paints that I got, the testers paints, um, so that it matched the box top. And the brushes weren't very small, so well, that's a long story, but pretty much I did a really good job with the Fink series. I think, given that I didn't know what I was doing and just sort of making it up as I went along, like Angel Fink. Angel Fink was a green-skinned witch. Okay, had a cauldron, and on the box top it had like it wasn't really smoke; it was like vapors coming off of it. So I thought I was really clever. I got some cotton and painted it this kind of metallic greenish color, and then put more cotton around it and stuck it in the cauldron thing, and it actually looked really really good. I did a nice job with that. But my mom hated them, and when I went off to college, they all just disappeared. But they reissued all of those in I think the 90s. Reissued all of them. And so what did I do? In anticipation of retiring and having nothing else to do, I figured I'd build all the big Ed Daddy Roth Fink models again, and bought them. So I've got like 10 of them or something sitting on a shelf. Well, I started one after I got it. What I mean by starting it was that I painted the hair on the top, and put a wash on it, and it looked really good because it was highly textured. Okay, so that was pretty cool. And then let's see how this goes. This is one of those things, a good example of why I don't use the super glues is that I just totally missed a place. Totally didn't get the contact cement on a place. Yeah, so I built those. I started one after I got it, which was, I don't know, 15 years ago or something now, and then put it in a box and shoved it aside. And then when I ran out of things to do for the show, that is to say, I did not have any dungeon tiles or minifigs to paint. I pulled out that, I can't even say partially finished. I should just say barely started. I pulled out the barely started model of the Fink Eliminator. That I don't know. It seems to have gone together. It's pinched together on the front. That's the important part. It doesn't really bend. Oh yeah, there's little things there to keep it from bending in too much. Well, as far as I can tell, this is okay. So the most of the seams on here, like along here, they look like they belong, like those are panels, but it's the bit up in front here, where it looks like, don't think, I think those should be, I don't think that seam should be there. I don't know. I'll have to wait until get the box top and look and see. Probably should stop playing with this. Okay. I mean, it seems to be holding together. It's not moving around very much. There's some excess cement. Where's my T-pin? There it is. It's underneath the file. I'm beginning to think I liked 148 scale models better than 172nd because usually the detail is better. Okay. It's one thing for sure is that the detail is better and the parts are a little bigger. I'm beginning to find that a little bigger isn't even big enough. I guess what I'm saying is that it's getting to the point where what I can see and do is not the same as when I was a kid. I'm just scraping off a little bit of the rubber, the contact cement that oozed on here that might mar the finish when it's painted, and it doesn't really want to come off. I've usually been able to do this pretty successfully, but it's resisting there. I think this will be okay. So then at some point in the future, which means Monday, or maybe later today, I need to decide whether to be okay. It's okay there. The seam across the nose, I really think actually the back. It's at the tail end. I think that's supposed to be like a cone that was put on there. I'm gonna fill those in out. The end of the stream, I think I'll put some filler on that. Okay, these radiators. To just getting out. I mean, this is where the two halves came together, and it interrupts the flow of these radiator vanes, which is separate from the issue of the gaps there. So yeah, I'm going to get some gel cyanoacrylate, some gel super glue, and I am going to try it sometime. In the activator, if that works, if I've got some time to align the parts, that might be okay. Try this stuff. What I'm concerned about is this is very liquid. I don't want it to flow. Hmm. I tried to find the green putty before I went away for to take care of a family member after foot surgery, right? Um, and I haven't checked since I've come back, so I don't know. I do have a family member in Germany They just got back from being away for a while. See how this goes. Being liquid, I think there's a good part of it in that there's like a little capillary kind of action that pulls it into the gap. Sand it down, and if it didn't fill well enough, I can put more onto it. I haven't checked since I got back about whether it's in stock again or not. Filling these in, this is the right thing to do though, because those little gaps there just are not, they're unsightly. Probably would have been better if I had noticed them and done something about them before I primed it, but I didn't. But I definitely need to try to track that down. Okay, well, there. See how that goes after it cures. Like I said, if it didn't fill in completely, I can always put more of it on. Having received advice several times now from people who are much better at this than I am, that I should try the gel super glue, cyanocrylate, the generic. I think it just sort of melted the primer a little bit, dissolved it. Why not give it a go? I'm going to use this stuff again a little later. Give this to fill in the crack. I definitely have decided that these seams need to go away here. These are okay on the bottom. Those are separate panels. I can believe that to be the case, but not along the nose. So leave that alone. Let these guys set. Clean up a little bit. Oh, let's do some painting. I'm going to paint the insides of these with the duraluminum paint. Need the contact cement now. I'm really tired today. Why is that, you might ask? I'm not sure. I guess I didn't sleep too well last night. It changed in the weather, allergies and things. At the very bottom of this, there's this, see the kind of little flutes there? That ends up being painted gold. And I'm just looking at the top here, and I think the gold color will then come across to the inside. So when I paint that gold, I'm going to paint it there too. And then when I mask all of this, I'll be masking I'm going to paint the gold on there before I spray paint the red on it. So I'll very carefully mask over it. Just like with these radiators. Okay, these are painted. The radiators are painted aluminum. Okay, that didn't get filled. Just always rotating things, and it just all looks different then. And in this case, the seam goes around to the side here. Didn't get filled in. Great. Yeah, I rotated it in my finger. Got into the. That's a how not to do it. That was a definitely how not to do it event. It is, and maybe I just can't see it. Okay, I'm going to stop messing with that now. I promised not to mess with it. On Monday, we'll sand it down, see how it looks, and have to do more. I'll do more. Okay, these bits just get painted. They're aluminum on the inside. The inside of this whole thing also gets painted that color. But the cement is curing, so I'm not going to do that. Who knows what kind of interaction there'll be between the contact cement that hasn't totally cured and the paint. I'm going to take chances. Boy, I haven't painted anything in a long time. Get the correct brush here. And I promised I would buy another one. Didn't. I'm get all sorts of brushes so I can see what I'm doing. This one. I've been doing that ever since I was a kid with the brushes. I'd catch a bristle and then bend it back, and then it would be in the way later on. I hope everybody's enjoying me not being able to do anything today. Well, I did some things today. I did more today than I did all day Wednesday, during which time I did almost nothing. Well, the upside of this now is that I need to put a little point up here. I need to get the edges painted. Okay. And I had it on the sticky tack in such a way that the edges were not exposed. so it doesn't move too much. Okay, there's going to be some painting now. It's pretty exciting. There's going to be painting on what we're painting, relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. Going to be somewhat relaxing in that I can't mess this up too much. Well, I can. I can mess it up quite a bit, but the way I mess it up can be corrected later. There we go. So messing up in a way that can be corrected is a whole lot better than messing up in a way that can't be corrected. I can say that with great certainty. Is if you're building a model, okay, and you don't know what you're doing, kind of like me building these, not really knowing too much what I'm doing, that if you're going to mess up, and you probably will, I strongly recommend, highly recommend, that you mess up in ways that you can correct. That either by sanding it out or repainting it, or sometimes, like I had to do on a part of the Apollo, just completely remove the paint down to the bare plastic and start over with the priming. And that was one of those amazing instances that happened with much more frequency than I would like to admit, where I just said, I want a little more detail here, just a little bit. And so I used a felt tip pen, really, really fine, like 0.005, right? So just put tiny little dots on some raised features on an instrument panel on the inside of the service module. Great, that leaked right through. Try not to make a mess, and I made a mess. Yep. And then I got a little bit of a dot where I didn't want it, and I thought, well, I'll just paint over that, but no, the paint dissolved the ink from the pen, of course. It did that. And then I couldn't fix it, and I needed to just take all the paint off. So the people who watched those particular streams, got a treat of how not to do something, and then how not to try to fix it, and how to remove, and then how to remove a lot of paint from plastic. This wasn't the right brush, really. I needed a brush that was broader on the tip, but I didn't. It's not what I did. Well, now that I put the metallic paint on it, you can still see where the circle was. See it? Don't think I can get that any better, though. I'm just disappointed. It looks sort of like it was molded in when this part was put together. It does not look like it did before, at least. But that's how these things go. The sand them down and they look fine, and then prime them, and maybe they don't look quite as good as they did, and so do a little bit more prep work on it, right? But then when painting it with a gloss metallic like this, any little flaw In this particular case, it still shows, but it doesn't look like it did before. Originally, it definitely looked like it was just a circle molded into the plastic. This looks more like it's kind of symmetric, at least. That's okay. That helps. I'm painting the edges, okay, like these edges, because as I was talking about earlier in the stream, if this were a real piece of metal, the red paint on the outside would only be on the outside. They'd probably not paint these edges. And so this is all this aluminium color. And then I'll mask this very carefully and paint it red, and hopefully it will turn out okay. It's actually, it turned out in this case kind of like the right brush, because I have to get into all these little nooks and crannies. How that's supposed to be painted. You have to see what it looks like on the outside. There's like a ventilation thing here, a little grid there. And I know on the bottom that's supposed to be painted gold down here. Test fit this piece before I mask it. I need to be able to see what covers where. Make a mistake here. I'm painting the surfaces that need to be cemented together, and it's not always a good idea. Can't really do much about that from in the location where it is. Just down here, which you can barely see. There's just some flaws in the plastic from where it came off of the mold. There and there. It's just going to have to be there. It's a nice color. I'm glad I picked this duraluminum for this. The aluminium, I'm saying that because these are made in Europe and they spell it that way. The aluminum is much brighter, which I think will look fine on the radiators, okay? Because those are outside and they're probably polished. But this is the color. Yeah. I got it on the outside where I didn't want it, and that probably will cause a little bit of a raised surface. I'll sand that down a little bit before I paint it red. Okay, well, that was some painting. I did some painting here. It was pretty exciting. It did some painting, relaxing painting. How's the time going? It's only been, no kidding, only been an hour, a little more than an hour. I'm just kind of startled because compared to Wednesday, I've done so much more. Like something at all. I've done something at all. Kind of, I just find it kind of shocking. Now I've got lots of time left. And the things to be done. Give this a little bit of consideration here. Does one hold these when they're being painted? Alligator clip on this. Hopefully not scar the paint too much. Put them in here. I put some filler in there that needs to cure and then sand it down because it's filling in the gaps, like little gaps there. So the question is, whether I can, getting a little bit impatient. What I'm thinking of doing is painting the aluminum in the radiator vanes all around the outside. But then I'm concerned that if after I sand these gaps, okay, where they were filled in, whether that would damage the paint underneath. Well, and it's not like I don't have other things to do. I do have other things to do. So I might go ahead and do those. This will sit there, that'll sit there, these will sit here. A little bit later in the stream, I'm going to put filler in on this seam here along the front. Okay, what is this about? What this is about, this is the this is where I painted the exhaust pipes. Okay, and okay, this was a test of something else I was doing that I ended up not doing. That's why it's a good idea to test things ahead of time, because sometimes you just end up not doing the things that you thought you were going to do because it doesn't work. In this case, it was I was going to spray paint the entire engine block glossy black and then paint the metallic parts over it. And it didn't work very well. You can just see that it would take several coats. So I decided to hand brush the glossy paint onto the engine block, and that did work. It worked out really quite well, rather than spray paint it. But this is an example of how 90% of the paint from spraying something gets wasted because these were just here like that, and this whole thing got, well, yeah. But the good thing is that I could then test this notion I have of trying to make the exhaust look like some other chromed exhaust or metallic exhaust, where it turns blue where it gets hot. And so I tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things. 2 different colors of pearlescent paint, a grayish blue wash, whatever that was, and then this, which is actually a speed paint. And it's really, if I dry brush it on, it's really subtle, but it does give it that kind of bluish kind of look. So if I do it on the exhaust, this is the exhaust end, it would be like dry brushing with a very, very fine tip brush. The parts that would turn blue would be right where it comes out of the engine, and probably like on the inside and down a little bit. It'd be a little streaky, and I would do it on both sides. I can hold them like this, and then where do I put them when they're done? I guess I can just stick it in a hole like that and let the paint dry. Because it's mainly going to be on these things and a little bit here. And if it ends up looking really bad, then what I can do is just I would just repaint it. I'd prime it again because the speed paint actually dissolves. There's different kinds of speed paint. There's some that dissolves when you paint over it. Well, I'm going to give it a try. I think it would look, if I can make it work, I think it'll look pretty good. If it's a failure, it's the failure. Oh yeah. Okay. So this piece here that I keep talking about, I want to close off the seams on the outside, but also on the to do about the inside. I can't. If I fill them in, I can't sand it. I can't get the sand. Well, I probably could, but it would be really, really difficult. Um, use this brush. Hi, Ophala. I did some things today. I put some pieces together. Look, these pieces are together. I did some painting. It was kind of relaxing. And I discovered some seams that hadn't been filled in, and I filled them in with filler. And then that needs to cure, and after it cures, then I can sand it down and start painting and masking. Now I'm going to try to make these exhausts look like they've been heated. And this will probably mess it up, and then I'll have to prime them and paint them again. But these are just exhaust pipes. It's not going to be that awful to do that. Brush that really well by it actually, it's really not too bad. Very subtle, very, very subtle blue color. I don't know if you can even see it. I mean, you can see it compared to the other one. And just the blue where it was heated. Not too bad. Not too bad. Um, oh, the thing that I showed you, the pieces, if I was asking what that is, that's the cover for the engine. The engine sits in the engine sits inside of it. This is the front, and then this piece here goes on the. That's the outside of it. That goes on the front of it. So I wanted to put that together before I installed the engine, so that I can fill in the seams here on the outside. I should fill in the seam on the inside too, but I don't know if I can do that because I can't get to it to sand it down. Okay, I think that looks good. I'm going to just leave it now. It sort of gives that impression. Yeah, and this sits. This sits on top of yet another stand like that separates the engine from the top of the fuselage. because the plane is made out of wood. So that needs to be suspended above it, not only so it's out of the way, but also so it doesn't, cause a fire. Okay. Everything's stiff. Trash over here. So when it gets to be about like noonish, a little bit after, I'm going to put put the filler in. So I don't forget to do that. And then these pieces here. You can't hear it, but I can. There's a dog, some major dog noise going on, and hopefully they're just playing. So this piece just needs to be masked so that it can be spray painted red. But before I do that, there's some excess the silvery paint got around the edges, and that probably will show as kind of like a ripple or something in the glossy paint that goes on it. So I'll be using this a little bit later. This part here, this bit underneath gets painted gold. And so I might, and that gets painted gold. This is drying pretty quickly. So a little bit later, I think I'll paint that. I have to decide what gold. I've got brass, which looks like gold. I've got polished gold. Not quite like Obraga, who got like the 975 different colors of army painter. I exaggerate a little bit, but it's pretty close to that, really. The complete army painter set. Complete. So there's polished gold. There's bright brass that actually looks better than the gold. Brass. Or just the plain old gold. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to be starting to work on the flames, and they're base coated in yellow. Use orange fire. And I think bloody red for the flames. The orange fire is a little bit glossy. It's called orange fire, so why not use it on the fire, right? I will. And bloody red, I'm going to do those and start highlighting the flames in a little while. This looks like a good brush to do that. So I'll keep that around. I'm looking for paint. That's polished gold. That's gold. I'm going to use gold where it says to use gold. And then orange fire. Found it. That's amaranth. That's not bloody red. That's flat red. Not bloody enough. Bloody red. There we go. These are going to be the flame colors when I start doing that. And what I'm doing is very carefully making a mess here on the work surface. Just doing that, I am making a mess. I don't need these little bitty brushes. The work surface started out not messy, but it is ending up that way. Now I'm going to just get working on these. So what I'm going to do is get a little bit of super fine grit sandpaper. A small piece of that. And this is probably not necessary, but I'm going to clear off some of the overflow of the silver paint here. Down so it doesn't show. And then this piece, I'm going to mask it. No, I don't know. I'm not going to mask it now because I'm not going to spray paint it yet. But this piece will be, this whole thing is going to be spray painted a really bright red color. Italian red, I guess it's called. It's the color of Porco Rosso's plane. So this got messy on the outside here. And this is an important part. It's right up in the front of the plane. Just smoothing it off because I want to have a ripple, looking like a ripple. Ain't good on it there. Painted red. Yeah, I guess there's nothing extra to paint there. I need to remember to mask the inside of that because when I spray paint it, the paint's going to go through those little holes and it will get all over the inside, which will miss the point. In fact, I might just go ahead and mask that now. You know why? Even though it's way premature, way too early, because I'm going to forget. And then I'm going to spray paint it and it'll be, oh, geez. And then I'm going to repaint it silver and the silver will leak through to the other side. And then you just know that's going to happen. You absolutely, if you've been watching this stream, know that that's what's going to happen. Of course, the tape that I need for that, it's upstairs on my desk. I took it upstairs for when I was painting the primer. I used it to hold the parts down because it doesn't pull the paint off, and I left it upstairs. Yay, well done. And I don't want to use regular painter's tape on this. Okay, this is what I am going to do. Doing a lot of sighing today. It's 11:30. Okay. So in a little while, I'm going to take a quick break, just, for a bio break anyway. And I'm not even going to put the break sign on or anything because it's not going to be that long. But I'm going to do that. And when I do that, I'm going to run upstairs and get the tape that I need. But in the interim, I can paint the gold on here. Why not? What, why not? It's supposed to be a little mixing ball in there. There, it's starting to let up. Yeah. So buttons. No, what I'm going to do is take that break a little sooner than I said. I'm not going to wait till noon. I'm going to paint the gold paint on here. And after I've done that, I'm going to take that little bit of a break, tiny little bit of a break, and run up and get the tape that I need, that I left upstairs in a spot. I said, if I leave it in this spot, I'll remember it. That was a lie. I lied to myself because I left it in that spot and then I didn't remember. Sticking it on there, so I'm not holding it in my hand. It's a little bit over the edge, just to make sure. I get it into all those valleys. Okay, to get in there to make sure it's painted in there. It's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell because of the reflectivity of the light, whether the paint is getting into where it needs to go. You know what what I really should have done is, if I were artistic, just doing this, is what I should have done is painted this a very, very slightly darker shade, like brass, and then dry brushed over the top to, I wonder if I can still do that. What I'm saying is, instead of using a wash on this, which I could do, but keeping it metallic, is I should have painted it like brass, so it's a very slightly darker shade, and then dry brushed over the top to get the veins. I wonder, I might try that with the radiators. Okay. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. It's so that the indentations, the down parts of each of these veins on this radiator thing will be a slightly darker shade than the top. And I could do that potentially by using a wash on it, but the whole thing's supposed to be metallic, right? And so one way to do that is to do what I said, which is to paint the whole thing with a darker shade and then dry brush over the top of it. But that's, I mean, it's really tempting to try that. But like I said, I don't want to use a wash on this. I need a different brush. It's not, the paint isn't getting into it. I don't know if you can see it, but it just, when I look at it, it's not getting into the deep places. Maybe that dry brush thing wouldn't work because the paint's not even going into the places that should be darker. Yeah, I'm barely capable of getting it to be just this single color, much less. Although it looks like, if I could have done that, the dry brushing would have been fairly straightforward because the paint doesn't want to go down in there anyway. Okay, well, yeah, definitely it's getting to where it should be. Well, that would have been a cool thing to do that I didn't do because I just didn't because it's not happening. But I might try that with the radiator of painting it duraluminum, like the inside, this darker, slightly darker shade of metallic, and then dry brushing. Why is this not right here? It's just not sure what's going on there. Doesn't seem to be taking the paint. Putting blobs of paint on it. Maybe it's just the light. But there's this spot, this area here is just not at a certain angle, just doesn't look right. No matter what I do. You can see it right here under that light, looking at it from that direction. It looks like it's not painted. To be. It's okay. I mean, I put like 6 globs of paint on it already. It just, let it dry, and then I'll look at it through the head magnifier, I guess, to see what's going on. It's just really mysterious to me, but it just looks like the paint's not getting into the veins, the valleys of the ridges. Okay. Well, that just took like a million times longer than I expected, and it just looks flawed. I don't understand it. Well, like I said, I'll have to look at it through the head magnifiers and see what's going on. See if I need a double or triple coat or whatever. I don't know. It's very, very weird and disturbing. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I am going to go up, since I used 15 minutes painting that little bit of an area and just not, I don't know, it's not covering right. It's very weird. Um, do something again with that later. Sorry, I'm just perseverating on this. It's just like the simplest thing in the world is to just paint this, and then it's just not looking right. Seriously, it looks like there's right here, the paint is not getting into, it's not, it's like it's not getting painted. I don't know how it could not be not painted. I mean, how it could not be painted. It just doesn't go away. Let it dry and then head magnify it and see what is going on. You can always put another coat on. There. So now it's almost noon anyway. So there we are. I'm going to go up and get that tape so that I can remember to tape those bits and take a quick break. I will be back here. You can look at parts. There'll be something on screen here. I'll be back in way less than 10 minutes, somewhere between 5 and 10. Okay, well, that was less than 10 minutes. I didn't lie about that. And you got to look at these pieces while they were just sitting here not doing anything. So there was that too. I got the tape, and what I'm going to do with this, because I'm waiting for the gold paint to dry before I tape it, is I'm going to put this tape down here where it's in the way. And then at some point in the stream, I'm going to go, what is this doing here? And nobody on chat will tell me, but I'll eventually remember why I put that so it was in the way, so that I remember to tape the inside of the front, tape the inside of this, so that when I spray paint it, it doesn't get paint on the inside. There. And these parts are just sitting here like drying. And this part is, I need to put filler in later. So I'm going to let this sit here too, where it's in the way. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on a flame, because I've got some time, and I'm waiting for cement to cure before I put the filler in. I'm waiting for filler to cure before I can sand those and sand them and then paint. I'm waiting for the paint to dry. So instead of just not doing anything while I'm waiting, I'm going to try to paint these flames. I don't know how this will go, but these are props for our Dungeons and Dragons show. It's going to be a flame wall. That be a flame wall. That will be dangerous, probably, because it's all flamey, and we'll have to figure out how to get through it. My character, just to be a little bit of a spoiler about this, my character has immunity to fire, because I have a cloak of fire protection. I'm just looking at this and thinking about what needs to be done. These little veins here really should be dark. This is going to be one of those things where after I paint this, or before I paint it, I could put, something dark in there so that they looked like they were openings. They don't open all the way in, though. You have to tape the insides of those holes too. I'm discovering all sorts of things going on here as I'm planning ahead. Okay, this is going to be painted red outside and metallic inside. And when I spray paint the outside, okay, paint will get in through these holes. So I need to remember that after I paint the inside, I tape up those holes. That's okay. Same thing up here, probably. But the other thing I'm noticing is that when I put the radiators in, they need to match. They need to be painted that color. So I need to paint the very, very edges of the tab that fits in there, that fits in that slot, the color of the inside of this, which is going to be duraluminum. Yeah, and I'm probably going to forget something. The other thing I was looking at was were these veins, and after this is painted, those should be darker. They're like a little ventilation thing, even though they don't go through the plastic. They should be darker, and one way to do that would be to get some dark paint in there. But then I don't want to mar the outside surface with the red, so I'm not sure what I'll do. I might just cheat and leave it. To see what it looks like on the box top. Some sort of super talented professional modeler. They always show a built-up model on the boxes of these things, and you go, I would like my model to look like that. And some of you might be able to do that. You might maybe look as good or better than the cover of the model kit, but mine don't. But I like to get close to it, and I have to decide what to do about those. Okay, this is orange fire. Seems an appropriate color to use for fire, right? This brush, and I'm going to be painting from the bottom up. Grab a flame and go. And then I'm going to paint up to the tips, but I'm going to overcoat the tips with red. Some of them anyway. So these are going to be props on our Dungeons and Dragons show. And as such, I really should be painting them so that they look good on camera and not necessarily perfect here. But I should do that, but I don't know how this is actually going to end up. Painting them all the way up to the tips, even though those tips will be overpainted red, because this way I can see where they are. Look better with the red on it. Well, it's coming out okay. They look kind of flamey. Mm-hmm. Looks flamier than it did when it was just all yellow. I think I can get by with just 3 colors. It's kind of tempting to use like an intermediate color, but I'm not sure how well that would work. Kind of a glossy, semi-transparent kind of thing. I think it's coming on okay. As long as it looks fiery on camera, I think it will. Especially when I touch the tips with a reddish. You don't want to do too much. It's tempting at this point to put too much of the orange on. And it would lose kind of the yellow undertone. Yeah, this is, I have to rotate it. See, this is important to rotate it because it's really easy to, for me, maybe not for other people, but for me, to forget that it needs to look okay from the side as well as the front and the back, right? Right. And the same thing, flipping it over to look at the other side. Is this on camera? Huh. Yeah. It's a feature of the stream. Are you on camera? Maybe. Sometimes not. For a visually based stream, it's important to be on camera. Oh, great. Um, right. Well, just have to touch it somewhere. Yeah, this is a firewall that is going to, I don't know, show up in our Dungeons and Dragons show and make life really difficult for our group. We'll have to figure out how to get through it. Now, the best thing would be if there was, like, if this was a flame that's fed by like a gas pipe or something. I mean, the flames don't look like a natural gas flame, but if there was just a valve somewhere, we could go up to the valve and just shut it off, and the flames would turn off. That would be the best thing. Then we wouldn't have to worry about it. We just walk right through because the flames would be off. I wonder if that could possibly happen on the stream. There's only one way for you to find out, and that's to watch our Dungeons and Dragons show, either when it streams with a live chat on Sundays at 2 on Twitch, or catching it on YouTube. And so if you did that, then you could find out how our group manages to get through the flame wall. If you don't do that, then you'll never know. For all you know, our group, Midnight Brunch, never made it through the flame wall and got immolated. And that would be the end of it. And that would be very sad. That probably won't happen because the show must go on. But it could. So you need to know that it potentially could, and that's a reason why you need to watch our Dungeons and Dragons shows to find out what happens when we run into this thing. This side came out way better than the other one. I'm not sure what the deal is. I mean, it's okay. It's kind of greenish in this light instead of yellow. Okay, well, there's one. It'll be okay. By the time I'm done with the second one, the paint on that should be dry enough to put the red highlights on. And even if it's not, that's okay, because then the colors will blend a little bit. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing when I'm painting because I'm not an artist, but I think sometimes it's okay if the colors kind of get mixed because they look like like they blended together the way they would in a natural flame situation. Clearly not natural flames. I'm pretty sure these are unnatural flames. So if you want to know how we get through the flame walls, something our TM has never let us do is the Batman TV show approach to escaping danger. If you've ever watched that show, what happens is that like they get tied up and there's a saw blade coming down that's going to cut them up into little pieces, right? And Robin says something like, holy sliceroo. He wouldn't say anything like that. That would be even dumber than something Robin would say. Holy cut up, Batman. How are we ever going to get out of this? And Batman goes, don't worry, Robin, I have a plan. And then they cut to a commercial. And they're free. And it's like, wow, Batman, that was close. Yes, it was, Robin. And we don't know how they managed to get out, but we know that that they did because the show's going on. We have asked for that kind of thing. Can't we just let's cut to commercial and then we're out of it when we get back? But no, that hasn't been permitted. So if you do decide to, and you need to, watch our Dungeons and Dragons show, what you won't see is that kind of escape that happens when you can't see it. We're not permitted to get off that easily from things like traps and firewalls and things. Yeah, you can't see it. I should probably show that to you. I can show you dabbing my brush into the paint. That's what you won't see. You won't see any sort of commercial break where we come back and we go, wow, that was close, wasn't it, Nines? Yes, it was. I can't do Nines' voice. That was very close. Let us not do that again. Or, let's not do that again. Nines uses contractions. My character also, Ralph, unless he happens to be in disguise as, say, Thomas, with an H once. My character doesn't use contractions. Character, which is most of the time. That's another thing about it, is we really do put on a good show. We have characters and we are in character during the show, unless, we're just, there's a reason not to be in character. I think if we're a little bit metagaming or something. Yeah, this is another reason why, there's a couple of reasons why I started doing, I went from going from 10 until 2 with a break in the middle. Stopped that quite some time ago. One of the reasons was that the breaks always took too long. Instead of, being gone for like half an hour, it would do a 45 minutes. It would just be too long. And then that. And it also went later in the day, which wasn't all that great. But also, it's a little bit it's cold and damp, and I can't turn my collar up for that, just, and make it go away. So, as I'm getting near the end of the stream here, chill is starting to get to me a little bit. It's just one of those things. It's an hour less, but I get more done. I know that's kind of funny to say more done than I was with a 4-hour stream with a break, but it's given that I usually get hardly anything done anyway. So it's kind of funny to talk about getting more done. More compared to what? More compared to getting even less done, which is, something that's quite likely. Okay. These look kind of flamey. They look okay. It'll look better with little red tips on them. So that's not too bad. It's not too bad. For props anyway. And after I'm done flaming the flames, I'm going to remember why I put this tape here, and also fill in the seams along the front of this engine here. Well, there are a lot of reasons why I changed it from going from 10 until 1, with usually, like I did, like a 5 or 6 minute break, like a little bio break, or I forgot something and I need to get it kind of thing. There are lots of reasons why that happened. And, it turned out that was just a wise decision to do it, because physically I feel less cold. I don't want to get too much red on here. The tips of the flames. Need the red on it. The tips, just so that looks really flamey then. Little touches of it, here and there, just to add some color contrast, I guess. Just little bits. This is what Bob Ross, I think that's his name, some guy who did a painting show. And he used like house brushes that you use for house painting almost sometimes. I don't know how he did that. He'd take this big 2-inch brush and dab it on a canvas and somehow it ended up looking like a tree or a waterfall. And thought that was, I don't know, kind of amazing. So I'm hoping that, a print that looks like a fire still ends up looking like a fire when I mushed paint all over it. That that is kind of the effect that one gets. It looks kind of flamey, doesn't it? I mean, that looks kind of fiery. Bad. It'll probably look okay on. Yeah, it does. I mean, it looks better on camera than it does up here where I'm looking at it. The temptation to just do just a little bit too much. It's like, oh, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then it's like, oh, nope. And a little bit more was a bad idea. I'm trying to avoid that. This look flamey on this side. Yeah. Now the plan is that after I make this look very fiery, that I'm going to then put some filler in the seam at the very back of that engine cowling. Okay. So on Friday, I can sand it down and then either reprime it, or if it's not too terribly bad, I'll go ahead and paint the inside of it and then get the masking done so that I can spray paint it red on the outside after I paint the inside. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's other little bits that I did some filler in that will need some sanding and painting. Yeah, there'll be stuff happening on Monday. I don't need the is anything going to happen logo on. I'm going to be bold and say things will happen on Monday. And so it'll just say something like what's happening today, and it'll be, working on the Savoia, because that's what it'll be. What I'm doing here is trying to avoid sharp lines and just sort of blending the colors in a little bit. And then, and then remembering to look at it from the side, because that's really easy to mess up. And it's mostly been on camera. That's always a pleasant surprise for me. Okay, well there's a flame wall, one of them. I'm going to do the other one, and then I guess I can just set it here. Why not? Why not? Oh, thank you. Yeah, they look, as long as they look fiery, you know, that's the important part, is if they're going to be flames, that they should look flamey. You have to maintain there. You might have noticed that I have not come up with any monologue topics since before I was gone there for a couple of weeks. And while I was gone, I still didn't come up with any monologue topics. Like I used them all up. Maybe we just need to end the stream. I can just stop. Like I have nothing to ramble on about. I guess we should just cut it out. The other members of Dyson Dungeons won't let me do that, though. They say, you need to go down in the basement on your not studio workbench and pretend to make models, act like you know what you're doing. No, I can't do that because I don't. But, be honest about what you're failing to do. And just keep doing that because why not? You like to build models, don't you? It's like, yeah. Especially if things work out, like the parts go together correctly. They don't fall apart. The paint doesn't become a problem. And then there's always a oops. The oopses happen, and that's kind of an interesting feature of this stream. They look kind of flamey. I think it's coming along okay. So for our dungeon tiles, we have a couple of tiles that feature flames. One is I can't show it to you now because I'm doing this. So I guess I'll talk about it without showing it to you, and then sometime others. Probably not on this stream. Maybe another one I'll show them to you. But we have these dungeon tiles. It's like a fire wizard, or I never can remember the difference between sorcerers and wizards. That's really, I'm sorry. Those of you who are D&D purists are going to go, seriously? How can you possibly be playing the game since it first came out in 1970 something and still not understand the difference between sorcerers and wizards? Well, I can. I'm a living example of someone who just can't get it. I've heard it like 5 or 6 times, right? But it just doesn't stick. I guess I've got selective Alzheimer's for sorcerers and wizards. But anyway, one of those magic users has a lair And there's like sigils that are on the walls. They're really pretty cool. They're all painted to look all fiery and stuff and magical. And in the middle of the lair is a brass cauldron, and the way it's set up is that there's a flame. There's a little magnet in the bottom of that, and then the flame has a little magnet on the bottom of it, and when the fire wizard sorcerer says "flame on," or "let there be fire," or "burn," or whatever the magic word is, and then you can put the flame in the cauldron, and then it looks like there's been a fire there, because that's what the flame is supposed to look like. So they're little flames. They're about like that big. That big. They're like a little more like 5/8 of an inch, right? And they go in there, and that's one of them. And we also have a trap tile where the wall on one side looks like just a normal wall. On the other side is a metallic plaque with an opening in it. And when the trap is triggered, you can turn the wall around so that it looks like the trap was triggered. And then a flame comes out. And it's usually a narrow hallway. And whoever is in there takes fire damage, because that's what the flame does. It creates fire damage, and you get caught in it. Okay, this is getting to the point where I can't really do much more to it without making it turn out to be too red. Make sure I got the other side. Like that. It's just like yuck. Yeah, I think as a prop, this will look pretty decent. If I were a real artist, it would look better, but it looks okay. And that's what I'm aiming for, is it's okay. And yeah, just about the right time to then you know, what I wasn't doing was I wasn't looking at the tips of these flames because of the way I was holding it. But now I can see the tips of the flames, and I'm putting the red on it like it should be. Okay. So a real artist would make these look like real flames as opposed to just sort of flame-like, flamish. But I'm not, and so they just sort of look okay. Okay, thank you. That's not true about the clerics. It says power given by a socially acceptable, powerful entity. But I don't know that it necessarily has to be socially acceptable. But it is. That is how it happens. Okay, so the wizards learn from books. Sorcerers just are magical. Well, compared to a warlock, given, okay. Yeah, there's not that much difference, is there, between a warlock and a cleric? Bard magic from being cool. That's what the bard would tell you. The bard's ego surpassed only by the paladin's ego. Well, thank you for that. The odds of me remembering that, especially the wizard versus sorcerer, the odds of me remembering that is really pretty small. So maybe I'll just you'll have to remind me again sometime. I'm not sure. Okay, I put the brush away. I didn't break it. That's good. So here are flames, flame walls. They look all right. They look pretty. They look pretty fiery. They look pretty flamey on both sides. I've looked at fire from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it looks like paint on plastic. Whatever. That was the forbidden word, and I said it again. Okay, I'm gonna put those on the side. There's some props now that we can use on our D&D show, and I probably could put these paints. I'm going to. Oh, look at me. I am putting the paint away. That hardly ever happens. I'm going to leave the gold paint out though because I might have to retouch this. Okay. Remembering what I was going to do, I was going to tape the inside of this piece. The inside of it, I need to tape behind these openings so that when I spray painted gold, I still am seeing it still isn't covered right. I don't understand. But so much paint on there, and it still looks like there's like it's not painted inside those little veins, the openings in the radiator. Especially when you look at it from this angle, which is the angle from which it will be viewed. I'm gonna worry about that on Friday. I'm gonna tape this, put the tape in here now before I forget. And then I'm gonna put the filler in the gaps and snuffle because I was starting to get cold. So the thing about tape is, trying to get it down in there using tweezers, is that the tape sticks to the tweezers and not to the surface where it's supposed to adhere. I don't know what it is about tape like that, but it seems to be a persistent characteristic of when I'm trying to mask something. Because that's what happens. See, like it's sticking to my finger. There it is. It's stuck. Great. I'm very carefully put it where it's supposed to be, and then it didn't stay there. Here. And I just want to push it down. It's right on the edge, but it is on the edge. I might put a little bit more on there. I don't know. Well, that didn't cover. And missed the side there. The nice thing about about masking, the thing I like most about it is that it doesn't have to look good. Because it doesn't. It just has to, cover, which is a good thing because I have done some masking, like on the, especially on the Apollo model, where the masking really did not look good at all. It looked terrible. But it worked because it covered what needed to be covered, and that's what the point is for it to cover what it needs to cover. And if it looks really scabby in the process, well, that's the way it is. All right. So that needed to be done, and it needed to be done then before I forgot. So there, when I paint the outside of this now, then the paint won't get through these holes and mar up the metallic color on the inside. That's what's supposed to happen anyway. That's what's supposed to occur. It's supposed to. We'll see. The other thing I need to do is put the filler in. And then the last thing that I don't need to do, but I should do, is look at this through the head magnifiers and try to figure out why it looks like it's not getting covered with gold paint. But yeah, I really don't like that seam there. And if I can make those disappear, I will like it better. Let me see what I can do. See if I can make that happen. The inner liner of the cap unaligned. Looks like I might end up having to do 2 coats on here. It's going to shrink a little bit as the solvent evaporates, and the seam will still show. So I'll sand it and see how it looks after it's been sanded. And then, if necessary, apply a little bit more. This dries, when it cures, it dries really, really hard. So it sands down to a really nice smooth surface. But it's also actually kind of hard to sand because it's really hard. Here, this is the seam that's most important. It's right on the top, and it's big. Big gap. That was bad. Yeah, I just need to let this cure and then sand it and then make a decision about whether more needs to be done or not. I mean, putting another coat on and sanding it isn't that big a deal. I just need to do it. The same is true of these little radiator guys, where there was an obvious gap right here and here in the front and the back, and I filled that in, and now it needs to be sanded, and then I'll see what it looks like after it's been sanded on Monday. So Monday there will be more relaxing sanding with Dyson Dungeons. Hopefully it will go more quickly than when I was sanding down those little circular areas that took 3 hours, almost an entire stream, 3 hours to sand down like 5 or 6 little circles that I filled in because I hadn't used this before. This particular, Ellie. Oh. Uh-huh. Well, I'm glad your friend came over, and I hope you're catching up on your sleep after your long stint, your 12-hour stint of working until 8 p.m. and then you have to be back at 7 the next morning or something. Hearing things like that makes me so happy that I'm not working anymore. Especially when the weather's been, when it's been snowing. The people up north in places like Michigan, right, and Wisconsin and upper New York and Pennsylvania, they all end up retiring to places like Florida and Arizona and sometimes even California because they're tired of winters. But after retiring, what I discovered was that it wasn't so much that we didn't like winter. It's just that we didn't like getting up at 6 a.m. and going outside. And even if you had an attached garage, it was still really cold. But if you didn't, then you had to brush off or scrape off a car. Fishing trip. Okay, well, where I am, if you're doing fishing this time of the year, you're ice fishing. You're going onto a lake, boring a hole through 6 or 7 inches, sometimes 15 or 18 inches of ice on a lake, and standing out on the snow and the ice with a little tip-up bobber thing and trying to fish. So if you're going fishing there in Denmark, are like the lakes all open, or are they frozen? I'm just curious about that because when I was with my brother in northern Wisconsin, there was 2 feet of ice on most of the lakes. People were driving their pickup trucks. Oh my, okay. Yeah, well, we had 40 degrees here yesterday, but then that's going to be going away. But further north, really, there was the. Oh, hi, Enforcer. You came on just in time for me almost to be done in 10 minutes. But thanks for popping in. It's going okay. I actually did some things today. Let me recap. I'm going to recap. So, yeah, you can do fishing in water as opposed to having to drill through 2 feet of ice. And after you've driven your pickup truck, seriously, the ice is thick enough. You drive these gigantic pickup trucks out onto the ice and unload them with your shanty and everything else. Oh, that's all right. So let me just show you here some things I did today. I primed these pieces that I sanded down Wednesday. I spent all day sanding them. And as you can see, you can still, if you know it's there, you can still see the depression where the circle was, but it doesn't look like a circle. And so I painted it the color that's the metallic color that this cowling is made out of. It's bare metal on the inside and painted red on the outside. So I painted this to see how it turned out, and it came out okay. This is ready to be masked on the edges and then spray painted red. And I'll probably mask this on Monday because, that. And then the same thing happened here. The inside is painted that aluminum color, and I taped it so that when I spray paint the outside, I won't get paint all over the inside. And I started to paint the gold on the, it says paint as gold, but for some reason, I just can't get it right. It went under certain light. It looks like the paint didn't get into the bottom of these veins. And so on Monday, I'm going to look at it through my head magnifier to see if I can do something to fix that. Just, I can't tell if it's really not painted or if it's just an illusion. So I did that. Oh, yeah, with a slow internet. But anyway, I painted the inside, forbidden word, the inside, the metallic color, and I started painting this. This gold, once I get it to look right, will be painted, will be taped over, masked, so I can paint the rest of this red. As I finished this, what I thought was, well, I really needed to have painted a base coat of a slightly darker shade, like brass, just a slightly darker shade to get it in there, and then dry brush the top so that you could see the difference between the veins, but I didn't. So unless I have to redo it, I probably won't. The cracks, the gaps showed after I primed on the top and the bottom of this. So I put some filler in. Oh, dang it. Okay. I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I rotated it. There's another spot that needs a little bit of filler. So I filled the gaps that I thought that I'd taken care of before I primed it, but I hadn't. So I got this liquid putty out, and I'm still trying to get it right. So on Monday, I'm going to sand those, and if they look okay, then what I'm going to do is paint the radiator vanes, and I am going to try that technique. I'm going to paint them the aluminum color, the slightly darker shade of the metallic, ever so slightly darker, and then dry brush a lighter shade across the top and see if I can't get that effect of it being darker underneath than on top. I don't know. See how that works. This one I seem to have filled in okay. And then I, just to recap, to make it look like to remind everybody I actually accomplished something today, unlike on Wednesday. I assembled the cowling for the engine, and I filled in the front. I'm going to sand all of that down to make those seams disappear. Hopefully, I don't know what to do about the inside. See these just right in there. I really want that to be filled in, but I can't get the sander. I can't sand it. All of these gaps in here. So on Monday, I'm going to get the engine and fit it in here. And I don't need to be breathing the fumes of this. I want to see what this looks like with the engine in it, to see how much of these seams show and whether I need to try to fill them in and sand them down or not. I don't know. The engine, once the engine is in, it's in. It's not going to come in and out. So I just want to see how much of that shows and whether it seems like it's an appropriate part of the real thing as opposed to the model or not. And then I may end up trying to, do some filler. What I may end up doing though is using the spackling compound on the inside. If I have to fill these in, I'm going to do that because that sands more easily, which is important because it's hard to get in there to sand it, and it gives a slightly different surface texture, but it would kind of look like it was a welded seam. On the outside, not so much. That's going to be glossy. I want that very nicely filled in. But I'm thinking these. Yeah, I'm going to see what it looks like with the engine in, but I'm thinking I'm going to fill those in with the spackle so that I can sand it down, by putting a little bit of sandpaper on the end of like a dowel or something, just to get it down. I think I'm going to have to do that because it looks kind of scabby. So that's what I did today. I filled in the seams on these. I put this together. I painted the inside of this and the inside of this and started to paint the gold, and it's not working very well, so I'll have to touch that up later. Oh, yeah. And these are the exhaust ports. And I got a little bit of dry brush of some blue to make it look like it does when it heats. When the metal gets hot, it gets a little bit of a blue color on it. And I managed to get that so it looks okay. So that's what I did today. I did some stuff today. On Monday, I'll be touching up the gold on here as much as needs to be. I'll be sanding down the seams here and then painting the silvery part. Thanks for dropping in. I'll see you on Monday. Yeah, I'm going to be painting these. I'm going to try the technique of painting a darker shade and then dry brushing over it, see how that looks. And then sanding this down to see if I can make the seams disappear. And maybe after I test with the engine, probably using the spackle compound just to fill in the gaps on the inside of this, because I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see them and they won't look right. So there's stuff. I'm going to be doing that stuff. Let me move this whole thing over here so you can see the stuff that I did and I'm going to do before I cover it up with a paper towel and sign off for the day. Thanks, everybody. Please become a supporter of Dice and Dungeons. Watch our Dungeons and Dragons show. It is really amazing. Watch this stream. You can become a follower on Twitch. Please do. Tell everybody you know that they should too. You can become a subscriber on YouTube, and you can also go to patreon.com/diceanddungeons and become a patron. Thanks again. Have a good weekend. Old Brogger, have a good weekend. Hope you have fun fishing. Enjoy that. And I will see everybody on Monday at more or less 10 as I continue the slow and mostly steady progress on the Savoia S21.